881-6858 today. Spectrum Business, made to work.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90. Gunshots on a Kentucky highway prompting a manhunt over the weekend and resuming this morning. According to authorities, an SUV registered to the suspected shooter was found, as well as a gun. Officials say they know the general area of Joseph Couch's location, but the terrain is rugged with lots of trees. The manhunt has prompted schools to close down today out of an abundance of caution. Police say the suspect is considered armed and dangerous. The race for the White House will take a dramatic turn tomorrow as Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will square off in a debate. The showdown between the two presidential candidates will follow a strict set of rules and will be a platform for both parties to show their strengths. A new New York Times poll shows the two neck and neck, with Trump leading by 1%, well within the margin of error. Spectrum News will have team coverage leading up to and following the debate tomorrow. More than 35,000 structures are being threatened by a wildfire in the foothills of a national forest east of Los Angeles. A state of emergency was put into order over the weekend after the fire pushed through 27 square miles of grass. More than 600 firefighters are battling the fire, supported by water-dropping helicopters hovering over homes and hillsides. Those are your headlines. Now here's a look at your weather on the ones.
Good Monday morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Certainly was pretty hot across the western half of the United States, and we have some more heat, mainly in the southwest later today. Highs will be in the upper 90s in Los Angeles today, 108 in Phoenix, with a great deal of sunshine and some excessive heat warnings in place. And down towards South Florida, highs are going to get into the middle and upper 80s, feeling like the upper 90s at times with heat advisories in place. And along the Gulf Coast, we do have some more unsettled weather in the form of a tropical system on the way. I'll have more details on its latest track coming up in 10 minutes.
Thanks so much for joining us here on Spectrum News. I'm Bree Driscoll. Today is Monday, September 9th. We begin this morning with a manhunt taking place right now in Kentucky after authorities say a suspect shot at drivers along Interstate 75 over the weekend. Police say the suspect shot and hit 12 vehicles and wounded 5 individuals. 32-year-old Joseph Couch has emerged as the suspect after authorities say they recovered his vehicle on a service road near the crime scene and found a gun. Officials are asking those nearby to remain vigilant and aware.
I'm confident that we're doing everything that we possibly can to bring this guy to justice.
Now, the manhunt has also prompted 12 different school districts to close down today as the search continues. Spectrum's Ariel Wessler has more on our top story this morning.
Police in Kentucky are searching for a suspect they say shot into 9 cars on Interstate 75 south of Lexington on Saturday. 5 people were seriously injured, but the Laurel County Sheriff's Department said all victims are in stable condition.
All of a sudden, we just heard this deafening loud sound, and it sounded like a rock went through my back window, and our ears were ringing, and we just looked at each other and we were like, was that a gunshot?
The shooting occurred Saturday afternoon near London, Kentucky, a rural town south of Lexington. I-75 was shut down for hours and a manhunt is underway for the suspected shooter. Police say this man, 32-year-old Joseph Couch, is the main suspect and urge the community to remain vigilant.
We're asking people too, if you think you hear something outside of your home, please do not go out outside shooting, our officers could be in that area.
The search coordinated by the sheriff's office resumes Sunday morning with the help of multiple law enforcement agencies, including a drone with infrared heat sensing technology. Officials say they know the general area of Couch's location, but the terrain is rugged with lots of trees.
It's a large area. We're just going to have to start from where we have anticipated that he possibly was, and we are looking for spent rounds.
It's unclear what the motive is for the shooting, and authorities say Couch is considered armed and dangerous.
Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will face off tomorrow in the first and potentially only debate of the general election. Our Daniel Grimes reports on the sprint to November.
While there is still one day until Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will spar on the debate stage, this weekend gave us a preview of what we can expect.
They don't love the police. They're radical left Marxists, and that's what she is.
At a Wisconsin rally, Trump attacked Harris for flip-flopping on positions like supporting defunding the police and fracking. Meanwhile, Harris said it is time to turn the page on the divisiveness in the country.
People are exhausted about the division and the attempts to kind of divide us as Americans.
Harris also touted her recent endorsement from the conservative Cheney family. Former Vice President Dick Cheney and his daughter, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, announced their support last week. She called for fellow Republicans to vote for Harris and not to write in the name of someone else.
If you really do recognize the threat that Donald Trump poses, then it's not enough to simply say, I'm not going to vote for him.
Former Trump press secretary and current Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders says Cheney's support is a non-factor.
I'm not trying to be rude, but you don't get to call yourself a conservative or a Republican when you support the most radical nominee that the Democrats have ever put up.
The latest New York Times Siena College poll shows Trump up 1% nationally and the two tied or Harris up in the battleground states. All the polling is within the margin of error.
Daniel joins us now. Daniel, lawmakers are returning to Washington with the threat of a government shutdown. What are they doing to avert this threat?
Yeah, lawmakers are facing a September 30th, so the end of the month deadline to get a funding deal. Now, with the election coming up, it means funding won't likely lapse, but there's still going to be a fight that could last several weeks. Now, on Friday, Republicans outlined a plan that involves stricter proof of citizenship requirements to register to vote. It would fund the government into March of next year, but that is unlikely to pass in the Senate as Majority Leader Chuck Schumer derided the plan. Two Republicans have also come out against it, and with a slim majority, House Speaker Mike Johnson can only afford to lose 4 votes. Now, Democrats are threatening that if Republicans continue down this path, the odds of a government shutdown go way up, and that would happen with just weeks until the election break.
Daniel Grimes, thank you very much, Daniel. And a reminder, you can watch the ABC News presidential debate right here on Spectrum News tomorrow. Our coverage starts at 8:45 p.m. Eastern, 5:45 p.m. on the West Coast. And right after the debate, our political team will break down all the key moments. Crews are racing to contain a wildfire east of Los Angeles. The so-called line fire exploded in size on Saturday, threatening more than 35,000 structures and sparking evacuation orders and a state of emergency. Spectrum's Timothy Parker has more.
Here in Highland, law enforcement are doing their part to make sure people follow the evacuation orders that have been given. Right now, the line fire has burned over 17,000 acres in San Bernardino County with zero containment. Right now, we don't know when things will start to get better as this fire expands.
We're looking at the fire behavior first and foremost, right? What's it going to do? The prediction of what it's going to do. We see that it's not weather driven. A lot of it's now terrain driven, and a lot of that terrain hasn't burned in years or ever. So we have to take that into consideration. The eastern end of the fire is very inaccessible. It's really hard to get in there. So we're using a lot of aircraft, and a lot of the resources that we have right now, firefighters, dozers, hand crews, all that is in play right now.
Because state firefighters just arrived on Saturday, there is no timetable for when this fire might be contained, but you can believe they are working to get it under control out here in San Bernardino County.
That was our Timothy Parker reporting for us at the scene. High temperatures, dry conditions, and possible thunderstorms could also cause more problems for crews. A highly anticipated presidential debate and a possible government shutdown ahead of November's election. All that and more coming up in today's Political Buzz.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, we know that internet is a vital tool to help you fulfill your dreams.
My dream is to become a video game developer.
My dream is to get my online college degree. That's why Spectrum has affordable solutions to keep you connected. At Spectrum, we are committed to delivering reliable, affordable internet and unlimited mobile to keep you connected to what matters most to you.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with you on this Monday. We are monitoring the tropics very closely as we begin to approach the climatological peak of hurricane season arriving September 10th. This is when the Atlantic Basin is at its most active as far as named storms and disturbances, and we have quite a few of those to watch on this Monday. We're watching 3 of them, one in the Gulf of Mexico, potential Tropical Cyclone 6, which is going to become Tropical Storm Francine sometime today. Much better organized than where it was yesterday at this time, and it's going to continue to work its way farther northward and unfortunately going to be bringing impacts to the United States as we head into the middle of this week. So as of the latest outlook from the National Hurricane Center, this is expected to become a tropical storm and eventually a Category 1 hurricane just before making landfall somewhere along the Louisiana coast, where areas have already seen several inches of rain last week with that stalled boundary. Going to be adding to those rainfall totals along with the threat for strong winds, of course, and the threat for storm surge along the Louisiana and even the Texas coast for that matter as well. This system's going to work its way up the Mississippi River Valley as we head towards the end of the week as a post-tropical cyclone, still bringing the threat for flooding in a place like Missouri up towards Arkansas and Tennessee later in the week. But aside from that, we are expecting several inches of rain on top of what we had last week, 3 to 6 inches, locally higher in a few spots as well. So flooding is going to be a major concern across Louisiana, even into parts of Mississippi and Alabama as we get into the next 7 days. And on top of potential Tropical Cyclone 6, we're watching 2 other systems across the Atlantic Basin, 2 with medium to high odds for development. And they're going to stay in the Atlantic over the next 7 days or so, not impacting any land or anything of that matter. But after Francine, we do have Gordon and Helene. Those are the next 2 names to be on the lookout for, and I suspect we'll probably see those as we get towards the end of this week. Aside from the tropics, we have some big heat building in across the Great Lakes. It's been nice and comfortable the last several days. That is all set to change. I'll have more details on that coming up in 10 minutes on your Weather on the Ones.
If you're just joining us or heading out the door, here's a look at what you need to know. Police in Kentucky resuming the search for the suspect in this weekend's highway shootings. Schools in the area are closed today, and according to authorities, an SUV registered to the suspected shooter was found, as well as a gun. Police say the suspect is considered armed and dangerous. The presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is set for tomorrow evening and will be a monumental moment leading up to our November election. A strict set of rules has been put in place for the debate, including muted mics, no live audience, and no pre-show notes. And Italian tennis player and world number one Jannik Sinner won the U.S. Open men's final just weeks after avoiding a doping suspension. Sinner defeated American Taylor Fritz in straight sets. Sinner is the fourth different man to win both the Australian Open and the U.S. Open in the same year since 1988. And that's a look at what you need to know this morning. New details now into last week's deadly high school shooting in Georgia. The mother of the suspected Georgia school shooter says she warned the school counselor before the attack. According to the suspect's family, his mother received a text message from the 14-year-old suspect saying, "I'm sorry." She says she then called the school about an unspecified extreme emergency. About a half hour later, police were notified of the shooting. Right now, the suspect is facing 4 counts of murder and could face more charges to account for survivors who were injured. His father is also charged with second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and cruelty to children for allegedly providing his son with the rifle used in the shooting. Neither has been indicted or entered a plea. It's time now for our political buzz. Joining us now is our Jason Fechner. Jason, as the presidential candidates are making their final preparations for tomorrow's debate, viewers should also be getting ready. What should we be looking out for during this debate?
Bree, good morning, and a huge night ahead, of course, on Tuesday on ABC News. We'll simulcast the debate, of course, on Spectrum News as well. A couple things to watch for ahead of time right now. Kamala Harris working with Karen Dunn. She's a Washington, D.C. attorney who has worked with Democratic candidates on debate prep for years now, most notably with the Clinton campaign back in 2016. Harris has also spoken directly with Hillary Clinton and with President Joe Biden about what it's like to debate Trump as she prepares. Meanwhile, Donald Trump preparing for the debate reportedly with Matt Gaetz, the Florida congressman, and also Tulsi Gabbard, the former Democratic presidential candidate as well. A couple things to really watch for, of course, that big knockout blow during the debate itself. That's big, of course, but that's really big with the television audience. What we are definitely watching for, those gaffes, those kind of big stumbles along the way, those are the moments which we, of course, saw with the Biden and Trump debate, which really play out on social media and can have the bigger impact and live on for days after the debate. So watching for those two elements, of course, will be key on Tuesday night.
Meanwhile, there is a new New York Times Siena College poll out. Break down the results for us.
Okay, kind of big picture on this. It is close, not breaking news, and we knew this within the margin of error. This is a national poll, so very close across the country, and we'll talk about battleground states here in a bit. A couple of things which stood out in this latest New York Times Siena poll, which came out over the weekend, of course, is that 28% of the people in this poll said that they want to learn more about Harris. And of course, they've got an opportunity to do that on Tuesday night during the debate. So that makes the debate even more potentially important for Harris. Just 9% of respondents say that they need to learn more about Donald Trump at this point. Not necessarily surprising. We've seen that in his poll numbers, which really haven't moved a whole lot over the last few months. The other thing, and this could be a red flag for Harris, of course, going forward right now, 61% of the people in the poll said that they are looking for major change, and the numbers reflect that that isn't necessarily the case with Harris, more so with Trump. 51% of people saying that they believe Trump reflects that, just 25% or so for Harris there. So that's something that she has to watch going forward. Closer to home here in Wisconsin, critical battleground state, of course, we're expecting new poll numbers on Wednesday from Marquette Law School. But once again, the newest poll numbers in these battleground states aren't going to reflect what happens in Tuesday's poll. So really look for that updated polling across those battleground states come next week.
And Congress is back today. What are the first things that lawmakers will be taking on?
Short answer to that, not much. Bipartisanship, of course, in short supply in an election year. And this is a relatively short time that they're back there on Capitol Hill, of course, because a lot of these congressmen and women and senators, they're going to be back home campaigning, of course, in a matter of weeks. So the things that we're really watching for right now, they've got to figure out fiscal year 2025, likely a continuing resolution, of course, kind of kicking that can to December. The other big thing on their agenda, of course, is dealing with the Farm Bill, and some provisions of the current Farm Bill expire by October the 1st. So that's kind of critical that they get those things in place now. If they allow that to expire, they really need to have it in place by January the 1st. So a few moving parts to this. It's going to be an active few weeks there on Capitol Hill. And once again, everyone's going to disperse, of course, ahead of the election and be campaigning back in their home states.
All right, Jason Fechner, thank you very much.
Have a wonderful day.
A home run production, how a theater is hoping to knock it out of the park with a hometown classic. Just ahead, right here on Spectrum News.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
Give me one good reason why I shouldn't switch to Spectrum Enterprise.
Well, you said our services meet some of your technology needs.
But not all.
Well, maybe you have too many.
Demand better. And when they call you unreasonable, call us.
Look, I'm switching to Spectrum Enterprise because they'll be a true partner, and I can't run this network without one.
I think you can.
Our clients do it all the time.
Demand better. And when they call you unreasonable, call us.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/act now.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Happy Monday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter. We are watching the threat for some strong to severe thunderstorms to develop across parts of New York later in the afternoon and evening. Not a big risk by any means. This is a level 1 marginal risk, with the main concern being damaging wind gusts up to 50, maybe even 60 miles per hour. But I'm not expecting widespread severe weather by any means. This is associated with a cold front that's going to work its way, approach from the northwest and work its way eastward as we get towards the end of the day today. Maybe some heavy rainfall leading to some localized flooding in a few spots, but some of those isolated thunderstorms, as I mentioned before, could pack a punch with those strong winds around 50 to 60 miles per hour. And it could certainly impact your evening commute as well, as that line begins to work its way further eastward and eventually pushing offshore of the northeast coast as we head into the overnight hours, setting us up for a nice cool down on the way in the northeast as we get towards tomorrow and into Wednesday as well. Expecting a great deal of sunshine across the Boston region over the next couple of days, 77 tomorrow. As we get into Wednesday, our highs drop off a little bit into the mid 70s before they start to warm back up into the low 80s. 80s and going to get a lot warmer than that as we head into the end of the week, into this upcoming weekend. But for today, the heat alerts are primarily focused across the southwest. Parts of California, including the Los Angeles and San Diego region, under excessive heat warnings, some heat advisories along the coast, and up towards the California-Arizona border, we also have some excessive heat warnings in place as well. Temperatures are going to be well above the average in the upper 90s and the triple digits, 105 in Vegas and Phoenix, upper 80s, mid 80s in a few spots in the Central Plains, lower 80s in St. Louis through Chicago, and up towards the Ohio Valley as well. You'll notice temperatures will start to warm up just a little bit as we get into our Tuesday and eventually into our Wednesday. 87 tomorrow afternoon in Columbus and 92 up towards the Dakotas. A sure sign that we are going to see above average temperatures as we get going into the week. You'll notice we'll be about 5 to 10 degrees above the average from Kansas City into Denver, about 15 degrees above the average towards the end of the week in Minneapolis. That weather pattern is going to start to shift the heat into that part of the country, unfortunately. And down towards the southeast, we're going to still stay relatively cooler, but this is unfortunately associated with that tropical system that's going to be bringing impacts later in the week. And as we look ahead into the end of this week, into early next week, we're going to see a bit of a cool down finally taking shape across the western half of the United States. That pattern will finally break, and you'll get some relief from the heat that we've been dealing with over the past several days. But in the Great Lakes, into the northeast even, we're going to see above average temperatures back into the middle and upper 80s.
Italian tennis player and world number 1 Jannik Sinner won the U.S. Open men's final just weeks after avoiding a doping suspension. Sinner defeated American Taylor Fritz in straight sets with his relentless baseline game. The 23-year-old also stopped Fritz from ending a 21-year title drought for American men. Sinner is the 4th different man to win both the Australian Open and the U.S. Open in the same year since 1988. He avoided being suspended last month despite twice testing positive for a prohibited substance earlier this year. His use was ruled unintentional after he said the steroid entered his system during a massage from a team member he later fired. Well, a North Carolina theater is bringing a classic sports movie to the stage. Our Evan Siri shows us how the project came to be.
You've seen the Durham Bulls on the field and on the big screen. Now you've got the chance to see them on a stage.
These are heavier because they're from the 80s, so they're heavier than bats now.
Lauren Kennedy Brady is the brains behind these bats. The executive director of Theater Raleigh is producing Bull Durham, a new musical.
In 2022, Ron Shelton, who is the writer of the movie and the director, wrote me and said, "Hey, can we get on a phone call? We want to, do Bull Durham again." And he was like, "How about let's do Durham and Durham?" It made sense to me.
So for the last 3 years, Brady, Shelton, and a large group of designers, artists, and actors have worked to make it happen.
You can see the Durham Bulls logo, the ballpark, and this is how the scenic elements will move to make the different locations. And then underneath we have all of our costume renderings.
Brady says the creators hired for this musical did an amazing job of capturing the 80s when the romantic comedy was released in theaters. And she gives props for some familiar props.
We have this little baby reconstruction of a bus, the Bulls bus, when they go out on the road for 17 days. Then you'll see the little bus go across the front of the stage.
Brady was a Broadway actress for 23 years. Her biggest role, she says, was with Les Mis.
So that's me in Les Mis as Fantine.
But now the Raleigh native is all about producing shows and calls this Bull Durham project her baby.
I think they're very excited about doing something that's going to have some, Broadway potential.
Brady says about half a dozen Duke Theater shows have gone on to Broadway. She hopes Bull Durham gets on that list. For now, she's just excited to bring it back.
There's so much local interest and a lot of love for the movie. It really put the Bulls on the map and put a lot of places on the map here. So, we're hoping people will come out and get reinvigorated by it.
Evan Siri, Spectrum News.
I'm sure they'll knock it out of the park. And you can always stay connected with us here at Spectrum News by getting your national and local headlines on the go. Just download the free Spectrum News app. It's available in the App Store and on Google Play. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
2024 election will decide who leads our nation and the balance of power in Congress, impacting all of us. From Capitol Hill to the Oval Office, let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth coverage with our dedicated experts in local politics. Strengthening democracy by informing your community. That's our mission. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
Sometimes in life, in order to move forward, it helps to look back. To learn from the pioneers and trailblazers.
To gain inspiration from those who came before us.
To show us what it means to act with empathy and to show that love has no labels.
Join WWE and Love Has No Labels throughout the year in celebrating people from all communities and heritages.
Because when love has no labels, that's a love we can all fight for.
Women are bad with money. That's what the world's been saying for centuries. But now we've got something to say. Save it.
It's time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Until we're no longer 80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
Save it. The falsehoods, the feelings of fault.
Then, the funds. Learn how to save for your retirement at WeSaySaveIt.org.